Hello and welcome to episode 79 of the Wisdom from the Akasha podcast. My name is Suzie, I am your host, and I am an Akashic Records teacher and practitioner. Today you are going to hear the second part of the conversation that I had with Dan and Jen, the Misfit Mediums. We get straight into the conversation around negative entities and how Dan and Jen deal with that as teachers who are teaching others how to deal with the astral plane. So I think you're going to really enjoy this conversation. I should also note that I have put the two-part recordings of my conversation with Dan and Jen over onto my YouTube channel. So if you do want to have a watch or just to see myself and Dan and Jen in conversation, definitely go and check that out. I'll put a link to my YouTube channel in the show notes. I am going to be keeping the podcast audio only for the time being, but maybe one day we'll be recording these all as well. I should also mention, of course, that we have the next free Akashic Records workshop coming up soon. And of course, I would love to see you all there to come and meet me, have a chat with me, and bring all of your questions about the Akashic Records. These workshops are a great way just to find out more about the Akashic Records if you have come across this term, if the Akashic Records have found you and you just want to know a little bit more. So I'll put that into the show notes as well. Finally, I will, of course, in the show notes put Dan and Jen's contact details so that you can give them a follow on social media and also book in with them either to have a one-on-one session or to do some mediumship training if that's what you feel called to do. Without further ado, here's the second part of that conversation.
So, first of all, I just want you to share whatever you feel comes to mind in respect of these lower vibrational entities that come in, okay? And also how you deal with it as a teacher, having students who maybe open themselves up and come across some things that are not particularly very nice. How you then deal with that for your students so that they can still develop and keep opening up in a way that is educated rather than, getting shut down with fear.
Oh, low vibrational beings and entities. Okay.
And
Well, I'm
experiences.
so glad you asked this question because there are a lot of mediums that deny the existence, and I think there's a belief that if you deny it, you take away its power. But it's also when you're working with energies, it's also worth being mindful that there are other energies out there. Now, when we're working in mediumship, the way I explain it to the students is that everything in the universe. I mean, I know you know this. So I'm not teaching you how to suck eggs, but everything in the universe is about energy, frequency, and vibration. So the way I explain it is spirit of very high frequency. We're sort of down here somewhere. And as mediums, we meditate and we raise our frequency and vibration to connect with spirit. So that's where the conversation comes. It starts off like a dial-up broadband connection. And then as you get more validation, then the connection strengthens. And when you're raising your frequency, it's like you're tuning in like a radio. You're tuning into Spirit FM. Now we're bringing them through from spirit world, from source, from heaven, whatever you want to call it. It's all pretty much the same thing. So when you're working in mediumship, you're raising your vibration and you're moving away from low vibration frequencies. So you're connecting with spirit from source, and they've got that wonderful silvery umbilical cord that connects them to source. So the energy is wonderful. When you're connecting with spirit in that way, in proper mediumship, you feel that unconditional love. You get that feeling of butterflies in your chest, and it's a wonderful experience. But there are other things, and I kind of separate it out into the other bit is more like the paranormal. And people think paranormal and mediumship quite often are the same thing, and they're not. They're kind of distant cousins. They're connected because there's a spirit involved, but they come from different places. And the lower vibrational beings are something that you tend to move away from unless there is you have a connection with that kind of level of energy. And it's like just dialing down the frequency a bit. You can connect with them. Some people get it naturally. The feeling you get when you connect with a different energy, it doesn't have to be a negative one, but if you're getting one that you're connected with a spirit that isn't necessarily connected with source, the energy feels heavier, it feels thicker, and it feels like there's an actual person in the room with you. Now it does with spirit, but it's a much lighter one. but you'll also get their personality coming through as well. And you'll be able to tell if it was a good person or not so good person when they come through. It doesn't mean that's how they are now, obviously, because they're a healed soul, but they're demonstrating to us what they were like as a person. And, but you can feel, the energy of something, of something or someone different. So someone who isn't connected to source, a lot of people call those earthbound spirit. Some people call them ghosts, but for me, a ghost is just like a holographic projection of, it's like residual energy that builds up over time, and you can't communicate with it. That's the difference between connecting with a spirit and a ghost. A spirit has a consciousness, and you can connect with them and communicate with them, whereas a ghost will just pass right through you. The negative energies, there are negative energies out, but like with anything, you have free will, and you have to will something negative into your life in order for it to connect with you. Something may well try and connect with you, but you have the power to say, actually, I don't want this. I don't accept this energy. I don't want it. And it has to obey. Now, sometimes they can be pestering, and they continue to they want your attention. And a lot of people will mistake just an earthbound spirit, for example, for something negative or something evil, because it creates fear. Now, we've also got thousands of years of human evolution and fight or flight that kicks in, right? So when you've got a feeling of being watched, you got a feeling of being of another presence around you that you weren't aware of, or you're not comfortable with, it's going to make you fear, because people fear that they don't yet understand. And it doesn't necessarily mean, so I'd say the vast majority of energies that people refer to as negative or evil actually aren't. It's just frightening for them, and they've seen horror movies and stuff, and it makes them kind of like, oh my god, it's a demon, right? I don't like saying the D word very often, but we can in this context as we're talking about it.
That's actually how my religion taught me, was that we weren't allowed to watch things like The Exorcist and things like that, because I would actually be willing it into my life. And there was a point where I had just left that church that I had discussed earlier, and I had actually watched The Exorcist, and I locked myself in a bathroom for 3 days because I was so caught up in it. Because, when you're so strongly believing one way, and if you believe it, you can really will that. So when you talk about also, you can also get them right back out of your life. You actually have to believe it. You can't just say it. You have to actually know that. And it can take over people if, they're not in the right mind or the right headspace. So there's a lot of trauma going on with them right then and there. It really can creep in.
Yeah, it can get you at a weak point. And some people even embrace the darkness because they feel like it makes them feel more powerful.
Right.
And it's not a good thing to do. It's not a good thing to do in any way, shape, or form. There are negative entities out there, and there are people that mix with what they call dark magic. There are people that do voodoo, they do hexing, they do all kinds of stuff. There is that element out there. There are people that claim that they work with demons, and some people do. I think the term demon is overused on paranormal programs and stuff, because people have almost become desensitized to the idea of being scared of ghosts, and now they need something more. So they bring in that term. People go, oh my God. It's actually quite difficult to come into contact with something like that. It does happen. I have experience of it myself. And I have to say, when I had my first, I'm getting each other's now thinking about it. When I had my first encounter, I was not terrified like I thought I would be. I was just really angry. And I wanted to fight this thing. It kicked in like a different level of instinct in me of what I was expecting. The negative energies are there to be embraced if people want to do it. And people can do that unwittingly by, for example, using a Ouija board or a spirit board. Because when we talk about willing something into your life, when most people use a Ouija board, what they tend to do is they go, is there anybody there? Right? Not, oh, I want to speak to someone specifically coming through. I want my grandma to come through from source. Is anybody there? Right? Which means you are actually welcoming anything. And quite often are. If you don't know what you're doing, I'm getting serious tingles now as my spirit goes to give me a little, put the hands on my shoulder. putting their hands on my shoulder. You can welcome anything into
Mhm.
your environment, and it's dangerous because people don't know what they're doing, and it can bring a whole load of bad luck. And you can track people's, if they've been having a string of bad luck and they've been having some difficult experiences, back to they used a Ouija board at a certain point.
Yeah.
It quite often comes up in a reading. And
My Nana used to say, sorry to interrupt, but my Nana always used to say, if you go into using a Ouija board, because she did, okay, and I did a board with her a few times, but I would only ever have done a board with my Nana because Dan will know my Nana was very in tune with all of this. She knew everything that was going on in this aspect. But she used to say, if people do this and they don't know what they're doing, it's basically like living on a very busy street, leaving your front door open and just saying, whoever wants to come in for tea,
Mhm.
come in. And she said, you're not going to get nice people who just think, oh, great, I want to go in and have a conversation with them. You're going to get the type of energies that you don't coming through that front door. And that's how she used to describe it. And I remember she went over to the US in, I think, the 1960s and was absolutely horrified that they sold these things in toy shops.
Yep.
It was as if it was just a game to play.
Mhm.
And it was, this is serious stuff. These boards are powerful and serious. And if you don't know what you're doing, and if you're in complete denial that there's anything out there that is problematic or trickster energy or negative or whatever we want to call it, you're opening yourself up to all sorts of things.
100%. It's terrifying that they're sold as toys. I think, yeah, my advice would be to anyone, just don't, unless you're with someone. Because some people try and do readings with them as well, and you think, God, how long is that going to take? Because you have to spell out every word,
Spell
right?
it.
I mean, but it is a tool of divination, like tarot cards, like anything else.
Yeah.
It's a tool of divination, and if people aren't using it correctly, and your Nana's analogy is a wonderful one, right? Because chances are you're going to get something that's negative coming through. And also, if you haven't closed it down properly, they're going to go, well, do you know what? You've called me through. I'm just going to kick off now. I'm going to cause some trouble. The number of times I used to work with a paranormal investigation team, we used to call ourselves a paranormal investigation team, but really we were the last paranormal investigation team you would call in. The last, because we weren't just we used to do investigations for fun, and we do it evidentially as well. We go in somewhere blind, see what we could pick up, and then try and validate it afterwards, see what information was around that we could validate the experience.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people will read up on it first and then try and contact with a specific one. That's kind of an early kind of elementary way of an entry level way of doing paranormal investigation. If you go in, you want a medium to go in with you, and they can see what they can pick up, right? And yes, you can do spirit boxes. But spirit box is like an electronic version of a Ouija board. It's the same kind of thing. But we would get called round to people's houses because they were having poltergeist activity, they were having all kinds of stuff going on. And it was because someone had used a Ouija board and opened up a portal. And there was everyone wanted to come through. And also it's like, you've invited me, I'm gonna cause this trouble now. So we'd have to go, I'd say probably 9 times out of 10, the trouble we had to get rid of, the unwelcome visitors that people had were down to kind of Ouija boards. Or some form of witchcraft or something along those lines. They do exist. And going back to that point about where we're talking about denying their existence, denying their power, it is some entities will create fear or things that will frighten you because they feed off that energy and it helps them to manifest. It's a bit like Monsters, Inc. I think someone knew what they were doing when they made that film, right? You know how they like the scare that...
That's the movie that I explain to people when I'm talking about energetic vampires. That's exactly the movie that I refer to.
Because they scare the children to get the energy, and then that powers up the monsters factory or whatever it is on the other side. and it is a bit like that. And when you're confronted with the negative energy, the best thing you can do, I mean, it's okay to accept that they're there. It does create fear. We keep that talk out of class to begin with, because we want people to open up and surrender, not worry about it, because that can be a big thing that holds people back. And actually, when you explain that they're actually moving away from, on a vibrational frequency level, away from negative entities, they feel much more comfortable with it. However, there are people that naturally have a connection to kind of all spirit energy, or those energies wanted to come through, or they want to help crossing over because the opportunity, they chose not to, because of free will, they chose not to go because they were worried that they'd done something in the past that was going to make them go downstairs instead of upstairs, even though there isn't a downstairs. They'd worried that they were going to go, to the bad place, and so they decided to remain. And then that window of opportunity closes, and they cut, and the umbilical cord is cut, and they can't get across. So it's up to a rescue medium, which I have training in, and so does Jen. We go in and help people to remove, to help people cross. And that, I've got to say, is as rewarding as doing a reading for someone and connecting them with their loved ones, because they're still it's not the whole soul, obviously it's a fractal of the soul, but they are still kind of in that human mindset. They're stuck in a 3D world and unable to cross over and by themselves, and they still have their kind of human belief thing going on. And obviously there's a bit more to it, but they still have that their human emotions and those kinds of things. And they can be terrified when you open up a doorway for them to go through. They still might be terrified about going across. So we have to bring someone through from the other side for them. And it can be their mum or their sister or their husband or their wife or someone that's going to reassure them. And then there's this moment where they go, oh, and they're going, yeah, it's okay, come on. And then they're reunited, and you feel the energy in the room completely change. And there's just a wonderful feeling of love. And you just think, God, it was such a privilege to be able to do that for someone and create this wonderful moment. And then there are other things that are much more serious and not as fun. And we have to kind of, sometimes they won't, like, we can push them over, but sometimes we literally have to push them over. And when you're doing it in person, it's very different to, I mean, Jen, I'm sure we'll talk about how we do it in because we astral project to do it now rather than go around to someone's house. So I still kind of miss that because I haven't done it for a while, like go around to someone's house and clear it. But when you're in that situation and there's stuff flapping around and you have to remind yourself it's just energy and it just needs moving somewhere else. Right. No matter how it manifests itself, it's just energy and it just needs redistributing.
Some of this stuff is, I'm still getting my head around it. And I do agree, like when we astro travel, there is that step of removing yourself a bit because you know that you can still feel your body still not being there. But sometimes we're really deep into the trance, if you will, of doing astro traveling. And we go into cleanse people's homes. And we, by the way, do it for free. We never charge for that. It's something we just do. Sometimes people donate, but we don't ever charge for that because it's just something that is like part of our obligation to do. And when we go in there to do this, we actually validate the things that are around in their home. So they know, again, that's that confidential. And we know that we're in their house. It makes you feel so much better to know that they're actually here instead of just saying that we came. But I just remember the first time, if it's okay, I'm going to go into mine really quick because I know that was you were asking. I won't go into one of the first experiences I have, but first of all, I was under attack when I was doing mediumship. And I think it's a really great story for us to go into another podcast. But there was someone specifically that had a massive crush on Dan. And this is when we were in the early stages of dating. And I didn't want anyone to know that we were dating. Dan was like, let's tell the world. And I'm like, no, because one, I took this so serious. I didn't want to jeopardize his reputation in any way of doing this. I didn't want people to think that when I really was working so hard at doing this and really getting a lot of validation, that people didn't think that Dan was just putting me out there because we were in a relationship. I'm in corporate. So that's, especially as women, like that's the first thing we always freak out about because, there's certain people that usually rise to the top because of certain things that they've done versus the women that have worked our butts off to get to where we're at. And so that was something, and I was so worried about Dan's reputation. So anyway, there was a couple of women that, I think definitely had some pretty big feelings for Dan. And then they got their posse together, and it turned into something that took me back completely. First of all, I guess I was so naive to thinking that the spiritual world was all love and light, because based on the way that the way you were talking. And I'm glad that Dan did structure it that way. He would not allow us to kind of go into that, because people like me would never even touch it, because I was so scared already about,
Yes.
how to develop. And so anyway, there was someone that went to a witch to put some black magic on me. Both my dogs almost died because of it. They had sent over, mind you, I was in Arizona in the desert, had a brand new house built. So nothing but just dirt around, like in a brand new house that I had built.
Mhm.
And about 15 frogs showed up in my yard overnight in dirt. No
Wow.
grass, no water, nothing around. And my dogs licked those frogs.
Toads.
Yeah, they were actually toads. Yeah. And they kept coming, and nowhere else in the neighborhood did anyone was experiencing it. Because I'm going out there for all the logical answers. And then there was other things that were happening. I had unexplained bruises, scratch marks on me, like things that were happening that I was like, oh my God, what's going on? So Dan had to call in some of his people to also help with him, because he's damn good at it. But he was like, wait, this is some serious stuff going on. Anyway, they tracked it back to source and figured out exactly who it's from. Things like that. But one of my biggest experiences was when our friend Josephine, who is a natural witch, and she is so amazing, that girl, she's such a good person. She told us to come to Shepton Mallet for a paranormal investigation. And so that's a Shepton Mallet Prison, for those of you who don't know. And so we went there, and that was my first time doing this. Dan had plenty of experience. And we went into what do you call it? A gallows? Is it gallows?
Oh, yeah, the
Where they
gallows.
hang
So there's an
people?
execution room.
Yeah. And so we went in there, and I start picking up on everyone's health in there immediately, because that's just like seems to be like my little bit of that extra that I will tap into. And I literally start like what they're doing right now, but I'm being told this by a spirit, an entity in there. And remind you, when Dan and I opened up, we had to tap into a different frequency. We don't go into the normal one we do when we're reading for people, as he was talking about. So there's educational maps, I guess, in the back. It's all on recording out there. But there's educational maps. It's pitch black in there. I'm already like, hell am I doing here? Like I'm like, Jesus, like, this is so different. Dan kept trying to warn me. It's so different than doing this astro traveling the way we do it. He's like, I'm telling you. And he's like, we had to put all kinds of protection on. Dan asked us to do like armor of God and things like that we have to do to go into those things. And I'm terrified, because that means you got to remember, this is a religious girl that only believes in love and light. And, so what you were talking about. Yeah. So anyway, I go in there, and all of a sudden this guy, and so Josephine starts asking me questions. She goes, Jen, what's the guy's name? So I tell her, I'm like, his name's John, or whatever it is. I think it was John. And then she goes, okay, I want you to tell me now, did he work here? Was he a prisoner here? I'm like, no, he was an executor in this room. He did it right here. She goes, you could hear her on the recording going, oh my God, Dan, get over here. So she's on the other side of the gallows, big, big drop into the room. And we're all on the outsides of the railing. And so it's pitch black. And then Dan's walking over. You can see their phone lights flashing on the board. She's reading it. And I picked up on the guy that literally executed people in there. I had no idea. I wasn't even on that side of the room. Well, okay, that already freaked me out a bit. I'm getting now goosebumps all over me. But when we had to go to the infirmary, that's when I had to leave. Because I started seeing a bishop man come into this location of the infirmary, but he wasn't there to heal sick people. He was there to do some practicing of bad things. And it was almost like he was doing some type of experimental stuff. And that's when, because even the guy that I saw that was an executioner, he wasn't a good guy, but he didn't give me that kind of creeps. Do you know what I mean? This guy, this bishop, next thing you know, I am seeing massive, what I would call, like, you would think was like an AI driven gigantic tarantulas crawling all over the wall. The cat balls that we had set up to trigger when spirit was around us was going off. Like, just, and it was everyone sitting around in the entire room. It's massive room of the infirmary. Dan and me, they're only going off around me and Dan out of everyone. And we have them all around everyone. And and at that moment, Josephine looks at me, Dan looks at me, and I'm going, I don't know what I'm seeing. You could just tell I'm like, and I'm literally ready to throw up.
I did not subscribe.
I did. I said, I did not subscribe for this. You know, like, I was like, no, hell. Like, I'm sitting there just calling in God and, like, you know, everything. Like, I'm like, this is, and I'm actually trying to spiritually, like, blast them out, because there were other spirits still in this room that were not bad people. But to Dan's point, were people that didn't want to leave or still were confused a little bit, you know, so they could cross over whenever they want to, which is the big difference about purgatory. If people thinking people are stuck, it's about them living that will over themselves about when they want to. They have a choice to do it whenever. So anyway, I'm freaking out. Dan takes one look at me. He can see what I'm seeing, and he's like, but he just doesn't react the way that I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, we're getting out. And then so we did. And then I picked up further things while I was getting air out of the prison. And then Dan had his own experiences. But that was one for me that it was the evil. I'm going to say it, that I remember, and Dan reminds me of what my job is to do there, which is to get rid of that. That's our job. And to cleanse it, and so I have this thing of shining massive bright light into rooms, and Dan can go into what he does, like when we do rescue mediumship and stuff. But that was something that I could see how people could easily be, you know, when they talk about possessions and attachments and things like that. And I've had a few other experiences that I don't feel comfortable sharing on here, that can take advantage of even like the most innocent. It can happen, especially where you're at in your head. You can let it get to you and take over you. And that's why I think it's so important, not to get off track, but when we go about Ouija boards and things like that, it is important. And like you said, when you did it with your nan who knew what to do in case something maybe went wrong, and she did it for the right reasons. And Dan's always there, you know, so I know that I have someone to snap me out of it.
I think, yeah, that's it. Well, going back to that conversation we were having before about staying grounded, because you have to remember that, okay, it's like if you're actually watching a horror movie, you can snap out of it quite quickly by remembering that there's about 50 people standing around the action that you're seeing. Someone's there with the sound boom stick, someone's there with the camera, you've got people holding lights, you've got makeup people, you've got a first aider on set, you've got this, that, and the other. So, but in that scenario, you just need to remember it's just about energy. It might be presenting itself to you in a certain way, but it's just about energy. Yeah, we moved to kind of an astral projection way of disposing of things, because a lot of people from around the world needed help, and there was a better way to do that. Geographically, you can only help a limited number of people if you go in person. I still like to do the in-person ones, and I know there's a few people nearby who'd like to do it, and I know there's some people who would like to team up with us who are paranormal investigators. A good example of astral projection, because I'm sure you talk to your listeners and your viewers a lot about that kind of thing. There was a wonderful experience recently. We were watching, it was a friend of ours on TikTok, and he was doing a paranormal investigation, and he's just by himself. Right. And he's got all the little light up toys and everything, right? He's got them all over the place. And every now and then the one will go off or another one will go off. And he felt like there was a little girl there that was talking, whatever. And then Jen and I were watching, both of us went, there's something there that's not good. And he picked up on it straight away. So we're watching it and typing into the comments, whatever, because we weren't having we hadn't gone into the box or anything. So we weren't talking to, just like, there's something there that's not good. And he's going, yeah, I feel really uncomfortable all of a sudden. And I said, right, I think we need to go and help him out. Because he was in this old church, and it was there's something that wasn't great. So Jen's go, okay, we're coming in. We're gonna help you. I said, warn him, because if we go in there,
Everything is going to go
is going to
off.
set everything off, right?
So I warned him.
So he warned him. We went in
Everyone-
there, and everything went.
And everyone in the chat of the TikTok was going, oh my God. Like we said, literally right then and there. And maybe a half a second later, everything goes ballistic. But Jay, his name is Jay. We'll give him credit at the end because he's an amazing guy. But he literally is like, because he didn't read that we said we're coming in.
Yeah.
He didn't see that. So he was going,
And it was great validation from our perspective, because we know we do it, but sometimes, it's like when you're a medium, you're getting the information from spirit that you're getting pretty much is correct. But it's not until you get the validation from the person that you're reading for that you actually know it's correct, right? There's still, you can be pretty sure with discernment and your training and your development that you know the information you're getting through is pretty much there or thereabouts. And we know that we can astral project, and we know we've dealt with things, and you feel the energy clear when you do it. But to actually have visual validation of astral projection going into, even though you couldn't see us, but we said it's going to set everything off, and then within a second, bing, 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 not just like one or two, the whole lot went off.
Yeah.
As our energy went into the space. It was that was quite something.
what was because I know she wanted to know any experiences that you were comfortable with. What was that you were starting to go into it about? One of the ones that was really bad for you that I don't know if you want to go into, or a different experience.
Which one are you thinking of?
The roof one.
Oh, the roof one. Okay, yeah. So I can talk about that. This was probably my first encounter with a demon that I was aware of.
He did say the word demon. He hates saying it, so he goes, "There."
Yeah, it's the D word. Yeah. So I had this is going back a while before I met you. I was running a circle where we had two circles. Me and another medium who actually was the one who taught me how to astral project and remote view. I ended up parting ways because she was teaching me in an unethical way. I was just
basically using astro traveling to spy on other people.
She got me to spy on someone, and I didn't realize. And when I realized, that's what she was getting me to do, I went, okay, I'm out. I can't do it. I'm not doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So so we had two circles in our we built up this community on Facebook back in the day, and we had two circles. She was running one, I was running the other, right? And she started the second circle, and she brought in some people that were witches. They're practicing witches.
Mhm.
And out of absolutely nowhere, I had rescue mediums contacting me going, you really need to protect yourself right now. And I'm going, why? Just take however you need to. I'm going, well, what do I need to do? There's extra levels of protection. I'm doing this, I'm doing it. What? They're like, no, you really need to protect yourself. I'm like, okay. So I did. And then they just disappeared. They came out of nowhere and then they disappeared. But they sent me some valuable information, ended up using some of it. And then some of it I found out some more for myself. We ended up, when myself and this other medium fell out, the witches that were in her circle decided to then go into attack, right?
Mhm.
And this fallout happened. I mean, she'd started it. She wasn't working ethically or whatever, but she started. They went into attack. One of the witches, before we'd fallen out, one of the witches in her so wanted to have a private meeting with me and asked me if I'd ever considered going and being a witch. And I was like, no, I'm quite happy being a medium. Thanks very much. I don't, I've a lot of respect for witches or whatever they do, but I'm quite happy just communicating with spirit and helping people in that sense. I don't need to be. But you could be really powerful. And actually, as she's talking to me, I'm finding it a little bit seductive, not in a sexual way, but just like the idea. And I'm going, and I had to pull myself out. Going, no, that's not what I'm about. No. But the idea of being powerful, and she was like talking. It was almost like trancing me into doing it, and I'm going, no. So I said no, thanks. Anyway, she was telling me she said she can manipulate water. So she put a glass of water and she showed me this like swirl effect and I'm going, okay, and this was part of the thing. I'm going, oh wow, that would be quite cool to do, even as a kid's party trick or something. It'd be quite, But I'm like, but that'd be quite cool. And then she's saying she was working with, when she started telling me that she would she got a kitten, so it would scratch her and then she'd use her blood for magic. I knew blood magic. No, you just together. So, I was just like, no, thanks. That's not what I want to do. We fell out. Me and this other medium fell out. And so the other witches went into attack, particularly this one. And she was working with demons. And she was working with dark energies. Shouldn't say specifically demons. I was getting there were things starting to happen in the house, right, in my house, and I'm going, I haven't given anyone permission to come in here, and denying the existence of, well, not the existence, but denying any power to anything that was coming into my house. Especially as I had a young child in there as well. So I was just like, absolutely not. So I'm putting down weapons grade protection on everything. There was a loud clatter on my roof. I had a flat roof. I was living in, it was like an old 400-year-old house where it was converted stables, and it was on the roof of the bedroom. And it sounded big, and it sounded like horses' hooves. And I was like, what the hell is going on? So I then tried to get out the front door to see what was on the roof, because it was clearly there was something big on there. And I was estimating by the sound of it, about 8 feet tall. And I was like, it sounded like hooves. And I'm going, this is crazy. So I still, even now I've been doing mediumship for a long time, still have this battle with my rational brain going, okay, there's got to be a rational reason for this, right?
Yes.
And that's where you have to go every time, right? Not everything's spiritual. It has to be, there's also a rational reason. And so I couldn't get out the front door. And so I thought, it might be locked. So I turned the key and realized it was unlocked. So I'd realized then I'd locked it. So I turned it back and still couldn't get out the front door. And then I heard it move and go onto the garage, which was also a flat roof. Anyway, I managed to get out the front door. And then I heard it go from the garage. I could hear it on the garage, and it was going. I could not just hear it. I could kind of see it in my mind's eye, and I could feel it was there. And I'm going, I've got to get out. So I then go to the gate to try and get out. Same thing. Can't get out. And I'm like, okay, something's telling me I shouldn't be. Something's protecting me there. I shouldn't be going out. Right? Shouldn't be going anywhere. And so I wasn't meant to confront it at that point. I then go to sleep that night. A few hours later. And I get woken up, and there is a D word in my bedroom. And I'm looking at it, and I'm going, is this in my mind? Now I'm like, have I just, because I woke up suddenly, and I'm going, is this in my mind? So I'm looking at, and I'm going, and I'm not wanting to ask it a question because I don't want it to tell me any answers, but I'm going, This is in my mind. So I look away for about 30 seconds, and I look back, and it's still there. And I'm like, and at this point, I was like,
You were enraged mad.
I was furious that this thing was in my house, or someone had put it in my house. And I was like, no, this is not happening. And I had a fury of anger that came through, and I pushed it out, basically pushed it out of the house. Didn't get up and grab it by the neck or anything, but I energetically pushed it out of the house and removed it. And at that point, as I did that, a lamp that was on the side that had a controllable, so like if you get a salt lamp like this one, there's there's settings on it, and you can dial. You can either turn it bright up, or it's a dimmer. That's what I'm looking for, a dimmer. And so there's a lamp with a dimmer on it. And it was on a low, I think it might have been a salt lamp actually, on a low setting. As I pushed it out, it turned right up, and it went bright. And I was like, did I just do that as well? Or was that someone around me, just one of my spirit guides or someone just letting me know that everything's okay? But I pushed it out. And then from that moment on, that was my first encounter. I knew exactly what it was. And I know then if I am confronting something of that level, I do get angry. And it's not like I get, because you can get fearful about other things, but I know immediately if it is a D word or if it's not, because my temperament will change.
And mine goes into rescue mode. Mine goes into, as a mom, like the people that are around the room or with Dan, Mine goes into like, his is a different kind of protective mode. His is a, I'm going to kick your butt. Mine is, I'm going to bring in all the medical equipment. I'm ready for anything. Like that's me.
Yeah.
Like I'm the one that's just like, I'm ready to like blast someone with the firing hose while Dan's ready to do some other stuff that is not good to these things.
And it's and it's interesting because we've been working together doing it, so we do it together. With Jen coming in there and she can blast out light and hold light for me, almost like throwing in a flash grenade, right, for something. She can do that. It cuts down my time of me having to battle with these things to about 30% of the time it would take the other way. I could be in there for a couple of hours to get rid of something but when Jen comes in there and helps me with it, we can get it done. We can get it done super quick. Well, a lot quicker. Sometimes we're still doing a meditation and for about an hour or two, and we have to take a break.
Yeah, but it's different though between crossing someone over that's still on, you know what I mean, on the earth plane, right? Like it's different because those are people that aren't, like I said, bad people. They just need to be crossed over. Now, sometimes I've now experienced, recently we were on a live and something was not good here. And then, when Dan talks about willing things into your life, I think people ask in the question on the live, they're like, well, wait, why is it then in your place? Well, it's very different because we go into other people's homes to do this and they follow us back. But also right now, because there is jealousy and bad intentions out there from other people, there is things being thrown our way right now. I still can't get over that. It's why I am so grateful for people like you, people like Josephine, people who are like, it's almost like, you can go to other people to help you, that you trust, that no matter how big or how high you go, they don't care. It doesn't matter. And we're all there to put one thing first. You know what I mean? And it's the health and the ethics and the intentions of others, like the well-being of others. And
Absolutely.
yeah, but so I can cross people over. But I had when I first started doing this, I had no control over it. Things were just coming and taking over me. I was literally like channeling. It was though I was experiencing this is things that weren't so dark, but things that are not in the higher vibration. So I would be experiencing, if they were unalived, I would be going through it, and I literally really thought I was dying, like at that moment. And Dan said to me, you need to get them to take it off you, blah, blah, blah. But at the time I couldn't, because I thought that by me going through the pain, I was taking it off of them. Does that make sense? Because I was so inexperienced and uneducated. And Dan was like, and you'll see a lot of people still out there doing that. And it shows that they're not educated about this, because actually they're not experiencing that anymore. They're just showing you what they went through. So now you've got to find a way to do it. So there's all kinds of things that can go into this. But if you don't have someone that is there to be able to educate you and to help you understand what it is you're going through, and you're just trying to do it all by yourself, it's a very dangerous road to walk. Very dangerous.
Absolutely. Because I think a teacher's job is always just to guide you where they've already been. Us as teachers, we've been through the doubts. We've been through the struggle against having to surrender. We've been through coming across things that are not particularly nice, and how did we deal with them? That's a teacher's job. A teacher's job, and certainly as a student, your job is never to put your teacher on a pedestal and think that they know everything, because they're always learning and growing. But there are people who've taken the steps before you. And it's just that putting a hand back and helping you through the path, and helping you so that when things do come up, you've got somebody then to rely on. And one thing I want to talk about, because I've taken up so much of your time today, but I do want to talk about this because I know I will have lots of people as listeners, hearing what you're saying and thinking, these are the people that I want to work with. And I know something exciting that you're now offering that you weren't last time we spoke was actual kind of one-to-one mentorship for people who want to train as mediums. They don't necessarily want to go into kind of a circle environment. And circle environments are beautiful. So anyone who's listening, circles are great. But I know, and everybody's different. Some people just want to do that one-to-one, have you there to pick your brains and kind of fast track themselves through it. So can you tell people about this program? Because like I said, I didn't know that you did this. Now I do. I'll be telling everybody who wants to train to be a medium. If you'd like to share about that program, that would be great.
Absolutely. Thank you. Actually, Susie, just before I go into answering that, is it okay if I just add just one little thing to what we were saying previously?
Of course.
Is that okay? I just want to add a bit of reassurance to people, because we're talking about earthbound spirits and we're talking about negative energies. There are a lot of mediums out there, unfortunately, that will tell you that your loved ones are stuck.
Yes.
Right. And so it's really important that we
Yes.
cover this, if that's okay, because
Absolutely.
their loved ones aren't stuck.
Mm-mm.
And if usually the people that we end up crossing over are from like a bygone era, they had a strong religious upbringing quite often, and they believed in heaven and hell, and they believe that they're going to go to hell because they stole a loaf of bread to feed their family once, and that's why they might get something along those lines, right? Your loved ones in spirit aren't stuck. If they took themselves over, or by whatever means, or someone unalived them, they're not stuck.
No.
They get pretty much whipped straight over, right? To heaven, to spirit, to the spirit world, to source, whatever we want to call it, the same place. They all get kind of whipped over. There are some horrendous mediums that will tell people that their loved ones are stuck, right? When actually what they mean is they can't connect with them. And instead of telling that person that they can't connect with them, they'll say, oh, they must be stuck. Right.
Okay.
And they're not thinking there because they just want to, what they're thinking about there is they want to take the money for the reading. Right. Rather than just being honest and accountable and say, do you know what? I'm really sorry. I can't connect with them. They will say, oh, your loved ones are stuck. They must be stuck somewhere. They're not thinking about how that's going to affect the person that they're reading for, because then they think, oh my God, my dad's just stuck in for eternity. What do I do about that? How do I, that's an awful place. They've already lost them. And now you're telling them they're stuck. It's even worse, right?
Not only that, there's one that told them that there's one out there that we really have an issue with as well, that told them not only because they couldn't connect with them, it was someone's sister. So this medium, she told this sitter that they couldn't connect with them because they were stuck, and that a demon was holding them down and she had to rescue them. And mind you, this woman has zero experience actually doing mediumship, like real medium. But she just one day woke up and said, today I'm a medium. And that's what she did. And she told him, so just to that very point, not only did she want to take money, but she also took it upon herself to be the rescuer, like the hero kind of thing, which is even more evil to me, But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. But
This guy's crazy.
Then she's done another reading for someone who'd taken themselves over, and she was saying that not only were they stuck, but because of karmic law and repercussions and things like that. Now, whether or not that is a thing, so when you're doing a mediumship reading, it's irrelevant to that place and time. And so we don't, our job is to put people back in a better place than when we found them. And so,
intention, isn't it? You want people to leave a reading feeling better than they left.
Exactly right, 100,000%. And so for mediums to tell people that their loved ones are stuck, or that they can't connect to them, or that their grandmother must be angry with them because they don't want to speak to them, right? Because they do that stuff as well. They clearly they're clearly not proper mediums, and people need to know this. It just means the medium is either a terrible medium or they're a fake, because a real medium would know that is never the case, right? Once we pass into spirit, we only feel love. We're aware of all the experiences and things and feelings that we had when we were here, but there is only love. So your grandmother isn't upset with you. They don't bear a grudge the fact that you didn't go to the funeral. They know that you couldn't make it to the hospital in time. They know all this stuff and they forgive you. They understand all the reasons why. It's not, and if people take themselves over, I mean, even the Catholic Church has changed its stance on committing suicide. It's no longer a crime, because you used to get arrested back in the day if you'd attempted it and failed. You'd be incarcerated or whatever for doing that. The Catholic Church has changed its stance on suicide because they recognize the impact of mental health. People, when they take themselves over, are not in the right mindset. And so there's no reason why they should be judged and go to some purgatory place or something like that. And so many people are still fearful of all that. But I guess the most important point I wanted to make was just that when we're talking about earthbound spirits, it doesn't mean that you're someone's dad or their mum or whoever is stuck in this kind of oblivion for all of
No,
time. Not at all.
there's no
Not,
purgatory. That's
yeah.
not how it works.
I think that's a really important point. And one of the things, because obviously the Akashic Records is kind of the book of life. And, you go over and you do your life review. One of the things I'm always saying to people is it's not that you're going over and all of these beings like, you're such a bad person. You did this. You stole that chocolate bar when you were 12. It's not about that. The life review is you as the soul looking back and going, right, what did I want to achieve in that lifetime? What lessons did I want to learn? How did I want to evolve? What did I want to do? And did I do that? You're the one doing it. It's not that you go into a room and there's all of these, as if you're kind of standing in the docking court and you've got all of these people. That's not how it works. I think we've always got to remember that in, those higher dimensions, in these planes, love is the most important thing, and that's certainly my experience of working. And I know my students' experience of going into those higher planes. That's the first thing people say, oh my God, that amount of love that you feel, that unconditional love, that expansiveness, So that carries forward with all of the souls who are in there as well. We think it's like human life, where you do something wrong and then there's somebody's going to stand and judge you. It's not like that. So I'm glad that you did raise that, and I'm glad that you brought that through, because I think as well, I remember my nana, would have mediums come to her house all of the time, and it was like sport for her. And I remember when you brought my nana through, Dan, when you did the reading for me, she was testing you.
She
And
was
she was like,
just around my visual tools and things. And
yeah, she was like, yeah, let's see if he's any good. But it's always been the case that there are people with not great intentions, or with, bad ethics, and people who are in it for the wrong reasons. Okay. But there are also really good people. There are really good people with good intentions, good ethics, who genuinely want to be of service. And, I always say to my listeners, it's your job to go out and research. If you want to have a mediumship reading, feel into who feels resonant with you, feel into who has the same values. Don't just take someone's word for it that, recommendations are great, but go off and, find their stuff, look at their stuff on social media. And obviously I'll put all your guys' stuff in the show notes today, but, and if you feel a resonance with them, great, because there are going to be people out there who take advantage. You think about when people want to go for a mediumship reading, a lot of the time they're in grief. A lot of the time they're in a very vulnerable emotional state. And unfortunately, because of the way that the world is, there are people who will take advantage of that. So,
there are.
but that shouldn't discredit mediums as a whole, or psychics as a whole, or Akashic Records practitioners as a whole. Just because there is that element out there doesn't mean that it's all nonsense, or there's nothing there, or anything like that.
Exactly right. I think that, and that's a lovely way to put it. I think a gauge I always like to say to people is, if you're wondering, don't just go and see a medium just because they say they're a medium, right? Because there are lots of people that can get a connection with your loved ones. It's also about your own personal energetic connection with the medium. So does the medium feel like, if your loved one were here today, does the medium feel like someone you would introduce them to for a cup of tea? Right? Because if the answer's yes, then you found your medium. If it's not, and you're going, I don't know, this person seems a bit weird, then don't do it. And that doesn't have to be me or Jen. It could be, and we've got, there's 3 other misfits now as well. We've got our daughter JC, Karen, and Wendy, who've come through the Misfit training program. I know you asked a question about that a moment ago, which we can go into, but there's a lot of people who apply for the courses, and we do say, look, we're looking for more misfits. Because I remember when I met you, I was like, I can't do this all by myself. I need more people.
I remember.
And
there's not hours of the day, Suzie.
And it started with Jen. And poor Jen, I've put her through the paces so many times, in terms of like, okay, well, this is how we have to do it like this, or do it like this. And over time, obviously, she's brought her own spin and her own element to it, and she's added to the teaching herself as well, because she's gone through my teaching, my methods. And any good teacher will actually also learn from their students as well, right? Because Because that's how it should be. And I think there's a lot of things that I've learned from Jen about how maybe I need to relook at some stuff and the way I've been doing things as well. So it's really important to do that. We say to people, look, anyone can train to be a misfit, right? Anyone can train to be a medium, anyone can train to be a misfit, with us. But not everybody will make that grade, right? Because they
Yeah.
have to be, we have some principles in place which are about, working ethically. So we always get permission of the person that we read for. There's none of this street mediumship where you go running up to someone and go, "Oh, I've got you down here," because
Yeah.
you don't know what mental health state, you don't know what their belief system is, you don't know what mental health state that person is in, and you don't know if the dad that's coming through is an abuser of the person that they, and they're going, "Oh, can you tell my daughter I'm okay, I'm in spirit," and the daughter's thinking, after years of abuse, I finally get some peace now he's gone, and now some crackpot medium's running up to them and saying, "Oh, he's by the way, he's haunting you because he's around you all the time," right? There's a huge amount of responsibility that goes with it. We work ethically and we work evidentially, and it's about, and we have to do this without judgment, right? And that means over sexual orientation, over race, over religion, over anything. It has to be a safe space. It's going to be a safe space for people to learn, and it's going to be a safe space for people to operate. And so people that can come in from whatever background, whatever sexuality, whatever culture, whatever religion, will come in. And I'm so happy to say that we do get that from all aspects and all backgrounds and all belief systems. People do come to us for readings, and they come back. We get a lot of repeat.
A lot of repeat, even with now Karen, JC, and Wendy, which is really exciting because Dan's development course is a criteria and a lot of testing. I will say there's a lot of testing after. There's a lot of group sessions where now, so people, if they sign up for our community, which is at patreon.com/Misfit Medium, for like £12.50 a month, you sign up for the community and you get, we send out notifications that says, we need someone to volunteer for this time and this time to get a reading. And so they just got to pay for unlimited readings, you know what I mean? Like from our students, and then we bring them into a class, but they're supervised. So we're, so people are not paying very much, but it's a commitment. That's that energy exchange. And then our students are getting more and more and more practice. After that, then we got to go through another criteria. I'm telling you, he is no joke. I went through the worst. Let me just be very clear here. I have been through the worst training ever. That's another story for another day. But not the worst training, the worst testing. That's what I would say. Oh my God, he put me through it. But anyway, and then after that, then what we have to do, and I think it's important for people to know if they want to come and develop with us, and also the people know that we're not just putting anyone out there because we want to get more money. It's literally, you're not ready until we know you're ready, and so then after you go through that and you've done tons and tons and tons of those, and even before that, you're still practicing on readings with other people that are already learning in the community. And we make sure that people are not just making it fit, right? Then after that, then you get to do one-to-one readings with people for free. We still do that volunteer thing, but Dan or myself will be sitting there with our camera turned off, but we're listening. So it's kind of feels more like it's a one-to-one reading. You do about another 25, 30 of those. Okay. Then after you do that, then it's Dan or myself getting off it. It's just the two of you doing it. And then it's like a Zoom, they have to record it, send it to us so we can see what goes on. You will never know about the ethics until you have the practice and the practice and the practice, because things come up that you don't realize, things that come up, and it could be really challenging, because that's when you really want to tell someone something, because it's going to be a wow moment for them. And the hardest thing is holding back when it could put someone in a really bad place or a dangerous position. There are certain things, if you're working ethically, you cannot say to some. For instance, if I see that you've got cancer, no way in hell am I going to tell you you've got cancer. Because one, what if I'm wrong? And number two, even if I'm right, what's that going to do to your mindset before you can even get into the doctor to get checked? Do you know what I mean? People do crazy things. So it's all those kind of things that you'll get that practice and stuff. So our one-to-ones, that's from beginner classes. That's our class setting. And the one-to-ones are even more intense because you're getting there a lot quicker than a beginner class.
That's exactly right. So a lot of mediums. I mean, I remember when I first started, people would say, "Oh, you got to expect to be sitting in a circle for about 2 years, right, before you then go out and do free readings, and then you go off and do you go off as a professional." And some courses, I've seen some that will drag it out for 3 years. They'll do a beginner, then an intermediate, then advanced. We did beginner, then intermediate / advanced, because once you've gone to intermediate, you can get into advanced pretty quickly. With the structured learning that we have. So we can get someone to a professional level of mediumship in about 18 months, which is about half the time of that 3 years. They're doing the professional is like you're doing it, but you're doing it for free because you're doing it because you're developing, you're getting something from it. The universal law of exchange comes in because you are getting something, you're getting development from it, from the experience. So you're getting healing from the reading, you're getting experience from that. From reading, you get experience from that experience. So we can do it in about 18 months. The reason for that is because the way we've structured the course, it breaks up all the component parts. My frustration when I was developing was just, it took so long for me. It was so slow. And I was like, I don't need to just sit there going, see what I get. I want to know why I'm getting it, how it's working, what's happening, what are the mechanics behind it. What does this mean if this happens? What does this mean if this happens? If they didn't have the answers for that, I'd have to go and find it from somewhere else. I'd find it from someone like you, or I'd find it from another mentor or whatever. And once I had the understanding and structure and some rigidity to it, because that was satisfying my rational brain as well. I can't just accept that that's just how it is, or that it just happens like that. It's not magic. There's a reason for everything, right? So I structured the course in that way. And then what I did was I'd break it up into its component parts, and then we put it all together, and then you start reading. You don't just start doing it from the beginning. You start doing it, working with your intuition and so on. So, and we do that over a longer period because when there's more people in class. But when it's one-to-one, that means someone gets to sit with us. If they're doing weekly one-to-one, which will get them from absolute beginner to advanced level of mediumship in 6 months.
If you do all the homework.
If they do that,
Okay.
if they do the homework, and it is intensive, because I mean, sometimes the homework is just like meditations, but I need you to meditate every day. So this specific meditation, and then I need you to do your own version of that meditation by the time we meet next week, right? And so on, and symbolism and psychometry and exercises for your third eye chakra, for your clairvoyance, for your clairaudience, listening exercises. All these things, break it all up. And then we go, right, now you're going to read. And they go, what? And you're like, yeah, okay. So now you've got a spirit with you. What can you tell me about them? What do they feel like? Does it feel like a male or a female? And then they surprise themselves with the information that they come out. Like, oh my God, I didn't know. How am I getting this stuff? I feel like I'm making it up. Right.
Yeah.
We have bi-weekly also one-to-one development as well.
We do. So that obviously being bi-weekly, they get there in a year rather than the 6 months. But if someone comes in, they get to sit with me or with Jen and we swap over as well. We take each other's classes because it's nice to switch it up. And also, they're going to read for Jen a number of times. They're going to know a lot about it because that's a big part of how we do it. You read for the person who's teaching it. So then I'll come in, and then Jen will come in for mine. And we sit down for 60 to 90 minutes every week. And it's flexible as well. It's not like a set time like class. We can find a way that works around people's schedules.
So we have attorneys, doctors.
We do, yeah.
We've got all kinds of one-to-one students from all walks of life because they need that flexibility with the schedule.
Yeah, and not everybody joins to become a medium like you didn't initially.
No.
But they just want to know what they're capable of doing. And also I can't think of any other instance in life where you work with your intuition, your instinct, and you get instant validation from it, and constant instant validation from it. Because we all have those moments in life where you reach a crossroads and you go, I feel like I need to go left. Right. And then your logical brain kicks in and goes, yeah, but going right is actually probably gonna be quicker. And there's a number of other reasons why you should go that way. You go that way, it doesn't work out, and you go, oh, I kind of knew I should have gone the other way. Why don't I listen to myself? Then weeks go by until you have a similar scenario, and you go, all right, I've got a real feeling I should be going this way. And then you think, yeah, but actually law of averages, if you probably, it should be right this time. And then, or someone else will say to you, why are you going that way? You should be going that way. And you go, well, they sound like they know what they're talking about. So maybe I should listen to them. You go again that way. It doesn't work out. You go, I bloody knew I should have listened to myself. Right. And you forget about it. And people talk about your gut instinct or whatever is just it's almost like it's irrational behavior. But actually, when you start listening to it and tuning into it, it doesn't lie to you. And,
no.
and
I always say you always know the right decision and you always know the yes. The problem is we've learned how to not listen to it.
Exactly right. Exactly right. But when you start listening again and feeling what feels like the right thing to do at this point, right? So what do I think is the right thing? Because you have so many overthinking or whatever. What do I feel is the right thing to do at this point? When you're communicating with spirit, that's how spirit communicates with you. They use your intuition. Do I feel like this is a yes answer or a no answer? Does it feel like this is a woman or a man I've got coming through? You start working with that. And when you get that validation, that instant validation and constant validation, repeated validation, you go, do you know what? I can actually listen to myself and trust my instinct, right? And when you start trusting your instinct, you start trusting yourself. And when you start trusting yourself, you start believing in yourself. And then your confidence grows exponentially, right? And we will always have this crisis of confidence about, am I making this up? To which I always say to people, if I said to you, right, just make up something about that person there and you got a large percentage of it right, you'd be like, well, I can't just be making this up. I must be getting it from somewhere, right? So you're getting it from spirit. So we teach people to connect, and their confidence within themselves, and just knowing that they're capable of doing so much more than their physical body will allow them to do. Right? You can only swim your physical body might only allow you to swim so far, jump so high, run so fast, but your spiritual, energetic body will allow you to do so much more. There's an infinite number of possibilities. And so when you can, when you learn that and you awaken the spirit within, you suddenly realize that you are capable of doing more. And some of the people, like we've got, financial directors and lawyers and stuff, they have no interest in being a medium, but they're just really fascinated by it. And they sometimes just want to sit in a circle and just do it because it feels like they're adding some more value somewhere to themselves or to people around them. And we even there's one lady on the trading course. She's a doctor, and she's finding parallels between how the human body's working versus what we're getting from spirit, and trying to and knitting them together.
Yeah.
So, for example, it was kind of when we talk about clairalience, which is about the psychic smell. I always previously believed that spirit would actually almost like and put a smell of their aftershave or tobacco smoke or whatever it is around you. I'm like, you pick it up from somewhere. Didn't really question where. And then when I was having a conversation with this lady, and she's telling me that actually it's because your brain, smell and memory are connected massively. They're really strong. And she's saying, actually, it's like you have a memory of what these smells are. And so then I realized, then I'm connecting with spirit and meditating on this and going, okay, so what's happening here is they're not actually putting the smell in front of me. What they're doing is they're triggering a sense in my mind, which reminds me of that smell, and they're actually allowing me to smell it. So it's like the first time you smell a lemon, you remember what the smell of a lemon smells like. So then when you smell lemon, you go, oh, that's a lemon. Why am I smelling lemon? Right. So it's triggering a memory. They're not actually putting the smell of lemon in front of you. There's no physical representation for that smell, but they're actually triggering a memory of the smell. Right. It's like when it's like with sound as well. When someone says, when you're a kid and you hear a police siren for the first time, you go, what's that noise? And your mum or your dad says, oh, that's a police siren. And there's a memory of that sound so the next time you hear it, when someone else says, what's that noise? You go, oh, there's a police siren. Someone's in trouble. There's a police siren. Right. Yeah. And so it's triggering another part. And this is another reason why everyone can do this. We're a walking, talking library of knowledge, experiences, sounds, smells, sights that spirit uses to help us communicate with people. It's like a reference library.
But that's also why bottom line is for us too. We have the situation where we have some people come to us and they've literally said to us, I want to take your 1-to-1. And it's not the most cheapest, right? I will say that it's not the most intense, and you will get results, and you will, if you see us work, Karen, JC, Wendy, myself, or Dan, we're always out there doing, demonstrations on live, but also if you want to book a reading so you can see for yourself how it is that we do this before you decide to take development courses, go to misfitmedium.com. But we've had to turn people away. And that's really important for people to know, because we've had some people come to us and say, we ask them, what's the reason you want to do this? It's not about us judging, but we need to make sure 9 times out of 10, the reason's fine. But it's the 1% that you get that comes in, and one person, for instance, said, I want to be the best medium in the world. That was the reason. We're like, yeah,
No stress. Yeah, you need to go and train with someone
sorry,
else.
no deal. And then, we had someone else that, wanted to be able to learn how to do astro projection so that they can go in and, they had some other people that they thought were cursing them, and we're like, next, so we have to make sure that intention's right, because it's our reputation at the end of the day. And
It's your reputation and it's your time and energy.
and it's our responsibility.
When you're investing time and energy in someone to try and help them unlock things and unfurl things and develop,
Right.
it has to be done in an aligned way. If somebody's coming with bad intentions to you, it's never going to work.
No,
It's doomed from the start. So asking that question at the start is completely valid.
yeah, absolutely. And that's also why it's not all about the money for us as well. So if they want to develop, they can go to bi-weekly or weekly mentorship. We would absolutely love to have them. And that's
when does the next beginner's circle start? Because it's for people who are thinking, well, I'm a bit scared. Actually, I learn better in community. I know you do. I know you have a couple of circles that are fully booked, and you might not know. Might be putting you on the spot here, saying when's the next one. But the podcast will go out and it'll live on the internet forever. So how often do you run them? How do they work? What can people expect on that side of things?
Okay, so well, thank you very much for asking. So we have circle and we have classes. So there's a new circle that is coming out, I want to say within the next 6 weeks. We used to do a bi-weekly circle, but we're going to make it a 4-weekly circle, and it's going to be 2 weeks of those 4 are going to be taught by myself or Jen, and then we're bringing in Karen and JC and Wendy, who are the other 3 misfits, because it's an important part of their development to also be teaching. And they're coming in to teach. And what's great about other people who've come through like my original training program is that it's like when Jen's teaching, she'll teach my way, and I couldn't ask for a better person on that front. She sticks to she remembers the rules that I've set better than I do sometimes, right? But she does, because I'm like,
why do they get to do that? Yeah.
And but she also says, well, this is how I got around this problem. So this is the challenge that Dan's setting for you, but this is how I got around it as well. So there's an extra bit of a bit of top spin on there, which is great. And so we've got Karen, JC, and Wendy. They're going to be teaching the circle, but they also sit in the circle on the ones that we're teaching, because we have no ego in there. So it doesn't matter what level people are at in circle. Everybody, the ones that have been in there longer, they just want to help the other ones succeed. So there's no, if someone comes in there thinking they're all that in a bag of chips and they start lighting, I mean, said polenta, what is Palo Santo, not lighting polenta, that'd be a nightmare, wouldn't it? But lighting Palo Santo, whatever, I always do this before my spiritual work, whatever. Like, okay, you're gonna go. Because it's not about impressing us to show how spiritual someone is. And quite often, people who are on a spiritual path, or they have some knowledge of spirituality, seem to think that mediumship is a divine right and it comes as part of it. And the ones that we get in class that like that, they've done some spiritual exploration, and they may well be in contact with spirit guides and things like that, but it's not necessarily mediumship. And so we kind of have to help them realign a little bit, or just go, do you know what? I don't think this path is right for you. You carry on doing that, and be go and talk to Suzie about Akashic Records reading, or go and talk to talk to someone about Reiki healing or something. But mediumship isn't necessarily, it's not for everybody. Some people are meant to do other things, or they're more interested in other things. So we've got a circle that is coming out, I want to say within the next 6 weeks. That's going to start. We've got 2 beginner classes at the moment. They are full, Classes are different to circles. Classes are it's more structured. Circle is more for like practicing exercises and things like that. It's a little bit more light touch. The classes are much more structured, and we drill down into things a bit more. There will be a new class. I want to say kind of end of August, beginning of September.
Yeah. End of August, beginning of September for that
a
class.
new beginner class, which is, and then for a higher level of investment is the 1-to-1, and we actually have a couple of places available at the moment for people. Quite often, people join the class, beginner class, and they go, "Oh, I want to accelerate this," because they get a taste of it, and they go, "Okay, can we sign up for 1-to-1?" But yeah, we have a couple of places available each for 1-to-1 mentoring at the moment. And the great thing about it is because we work with people who are in all kinds of walks of life. It's a flexible time. We work with in a time that works with our diary and theirs, so it doesn't have to be a set time like classes. And because of the wonders of the internet, people do it from all over the world.
And you guys still offer 1-to-1 readings with either you or now together as well. Is that right?
That is right. Yeah. So people can book
It's been
a reading.
a big thing now with everyone
It's
that's to read together.
really popular actually. So yeah, because people were asking us for a long time about, we do a couple reading, which is where either myself or Jen would kind of, or now one of Karen, Josie, or Wendy they can order as a couple. So there's two friends, brother and sister, mother and daughter, father and son, whatever. Very rarely father and son, because men tend to be a lot more skeptical, right?
There are some.
We're getting a lot more guys
That's
actually
been
coming
awesome.
for readings now, which means we're doing something right, because it means guys are feeling more comfortable about coming forward. But so people can book with me, they can book with Jen, they can book with Karen, Jason, or Wendy, or they can book with me and Jen together now. Or they can have a couples reading with myself and Jen, and we both tap into the same spirit, and we get different mediums get different bits of information. A lot of it will align, but there might be just key bits in the messages and things that are slightly different. The pace of the reading goes a bit, because if you're reading by yourself, you might just pause for a second while you're getting information from spirit. So while I'm getting a download from spirit, Jen's now talking about the bit of information that she's got. Then I talk and she's getting the next bit. So the pace is much more fluid. So you can, people can book with us and book with us together, or book with one of our other wonderful misfits as well. It's and I've got to say, it is, it's not the easiest job to do, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes, because what you really want to do is help. You really want to bring that person back for them, and you can't. But what you can do is give them a moment of hope and a beautiful moment of reconnection that gives them a real hope, a real belief that their loved one is around us. They've been around us for that moment and is around them all the time, whenever they want to think about them, or sometimes even when they're not thinking about them, they just pop in on them. And it is an absolute pleasure and a privilege to be able to do this work and to be able to facilitate that conversation.
It's definitely not the easiest job, but it is most definitely the most rewarding by far.
I love that, because, what I know from both of you is that the service to the client is what's the most important thing. It's not about the ego. It's not about, I think I'm the best. It's not about how much money can I make out of this. It's, can I, as we said before, can I send this person off feeling better than they did when they showed up to this session? And, with that intention behind your service, you're not going to be able to go wrong.